As far as the trade deal goes, nothing is done till it's done. In the sense, until unless we have the sign on dotted line, it is still negotiation, it is still work in progress. There was a bit of acrimony that was more due to the so-called advisors of the Trump administration. So this one-to-one dialogue between the two leaders is a very significant thing because that contributes to thaw in the bilateral ties. As far as the overall ties is going, I can assure you what is happening is that the ties have actually improved. What you are seeing is because President Donald Trump likes to tweet, likes to talk, likes to do upfront diplomacy. President Donald Trump has said that India has decided to purchase less oil. Now that's a position which India is definitely willing to take. India can compensate by buying oil from America or any other place.
Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching Hindustan Times and my name is Aisha Varma. On this segment of Point Blank, ties between India and the United States have somewhat soured over the last few months with Donald Trump's trade tariffs and meetings with Pakistan's Army Chief Field Marshal Asim Munir. So what is the latest? We have the executive editor of Hindustan Times, Mr. Shishir Gupta, joining us for more. Sir, namaskar. So there are a few aspects to look at when we talk about the relationship that is shared between India and the United States. Recently, there was a call that was held between Donald Trump and our Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, in regards to Diwali. Beyond this, you also have some reports about us closing in on a trade deal, and then you also have the ASEAN meeting. What is going on here?
See, Aisha, President Donald Trump made the Diwali call to Prime Minister Narendra Modi and also celebrated Diwali at the Oval Office with the Indian ambassador to US, Vinay Quatra, his family, as well as the embassy officials being there. Now, this is very significant because this is the second call that President Trump has made. The previous call was on the birthday of Prime Minister Narendra Modi on September 17th. So what is happening is multiple things are at play right now. So first of all, to say that, so what is happening in the trade deal? Well, as far as the trade deal goes, nothing is done till it's done. In the sense, until unless we have the sign on dotted line, it is still negotiation, it is still work in progress. But it is definitely work in progress because both sides are continuously negotiating. Then as far as the overall picture of the Indo-US ties is concerned, what you see is there was a bit of acrimony that was more due to the so-called advisors of the Trump administration who were speaking perhaps out of turn against India. Now what has happened is, it is quite evident that the two leaders have decided that they will continue to engage with each other, and that will have some sort of a dampening effect to all those people who are trying to act as irritants in the ties. So this one-to-one dialogue between the two leaders is a very significant thing because that contributes to thaw in the bilateral ties. Now, that is also lays the foundation for a good trade negotiation. Not only trade negotiation, it also lays a good foundation for the overall bilateral ties which were hit by this, which were also exacerbated by the meetings of Field Marshal Asim Munir, Shehbaz Sharif with President Donald Trump. Now, what is happening right now is that one is the trade deal, which is still in negotiation. Second thing is the ASEAN meeting. The ASEAN meeting is still to be decided. And chances are not that great because 25th and 26th of October, when the meeting is there in Kuala Lumpur, that time is the Chhath festival in Bihar, and Bihar is headed for elections. Bihar is a critical election for the India government. So rather than use the time to go over there and sort of, just talk about various aspects, it is better to focus politically on Bihar.
Okay.
So the call is still not taken, but it is highly unlikely that this should happen, considering that the Bihar election is on, right? So these are two aspects to it. But as far as the overall ties is going, I can assure you what is happening is that the ties have actually improved, in the sense that there is lot of institutional mechanism which is working on every front, including national security, intelligence, on every front. So what you are seeing is because President Donald Trump likes to tweet, likes to talk, likes to do upfront diplomacy. But behind the scenes, you see a lot of convergence between India and US, much to the chagrin of Field Marshal Asim Munir and whosoever is trying to drive a wedge between Indo-US ties. So this is where the broad picture of the relationship is. And what is happening is that the Indian Commerce Secretary has just returned from US after having negotiated, trying to work out a pathway towards the Indo-US trade deal. It is still work in progress. And as I said, trade negotiations are very serious business. They're technical business, a very serious business. It is not just simply give and take. Everything has to be worked at, everything has to be negotiated, everything has to be underlined, dotted, and everything. So till such time the deal does not happen, it's very difficult to actually say when the deal will take place.
So beyond this, when we talk about the relationship that India and the United States shares, we had earlier spoken about the fact that it had soured over the last few months. A lot of this has to do, what is at the crux of this, is India's imports of Russian oil. This is something that the Trump administration has constantly put the spotlight on. How do we see what's taking place here in the larger aspect of things?
See, there are two parts to this. One is the President Donald Trump saying that India will not be importing oil from Russia. And the second is the 25% tariff which was initially put up on India. Now, what is happening is that during his Diwali call, and what has subsequently come out of it, is that President Donald Trump has said that India has decided to purchase less oil. Now, that's a position which India is definitely willing to take, because it's not that India is trying to sort of tell President Trump to back off. India wants to negotiate with US. India wants to have very good ties with US, but India cannot afford not to import oil from Russia because the prices will skyrocket. So yes, this position that India will buy less oil is a workable position, because India can compensate by buying oil from America or any other place, right? Which is recording a forward momentum in that way. I mean, the two sides are not really, have taken hardened their position. They are willing to negotiate, right? Two things are there. So there is a 25% tariff, initial tariff on textiles and other things, and then there is a 25% tariff on the Russian oil that Americans have put. Now, President Donald Trump in his call has also said that India is opposed to the Ukraine war, which again is a pretty good position, because that's a factual position.
Okay.
It's not a position which is advisors and Indian detractors were saying that India was actually feeding the Ukraine war. So you see an opening in this, and the opening has been created by the two leaders. Now, that if and when the trade deal takes place, the first thing that should go out is that, the penalty that India is paying on Russian oil, that has to go. Subsequently, the remaining tariff has to be negotiated on. And the remaining tariff has to be such that it is a win-win for both. Understand one thing clearly, India is not trying to sort of fob off America. India is all for good ties with America, but it cannot have a position where India faces penalties for something which is doing in its national interest. So India has red lines, India has green lines, and India is willing to negotiate. India is willing to buy oil from US, India is willing to buy defense equipment from US to compensate for whatever is the trade deficit. So the thing is that, India is acting in a bona fide fashion with US. As long as there is a space where the two sides do not harden their position, the deal is very much on the horizon. But time and date, I cannot speculate.
Okay. So thank you so much for joining us and providing us with all of that crucial insight into this relationship. But do stay tuned right here on Hindustan Times.